like that little bit of music. Hello again. I trust you're well. I'm in a very, very good mood today. I mean, I'm in a good mood all the time. I am going to be talking to an author who I've spoken to before. This is not our first time. I've loved her for I don't know how long. So when I got to meet her, it was an absolute pleasure. And I'm so glad that she's agreed to be involved in ABC Angie's Book Club. Her current book is called My Other Husband. Oh, Dorothy Koomson, come on now. Let's talk about this. Let's unwrap this. How are you, Dorothy?
Good. How are you, Angie?
I'm really good. I'm really good. And as always,
you know what? It's really funny when you say that you were really excited to meet me because, like, you know, me and my sister, we used to listen to you all the time on the radio. So it was really funny when I was like, since my sister, I'm meeting Angie Greaves. And when we had that first picture together, I sent it to her and I was like, look at me. I've arrived.
You know, when I think back to my time, especially on Choice FM, I never absorbed the power at the time.
No, you don't.
And, you know, my daughter is 24 this year, so I've left Choice 25 years. But I still get it. Oh, used to listen to you on Choice. What I get now is, my mom used to listen to you on
Oh,
Choice.
yeah, that one.
Yeah, I really like it. I really like the fact that, you know, my children my kids' age come to me and say, my mom said I got to come and say hi to you. I just really, really love it. I really do. Okay, let's switch the Admiration Society to you now, Dorothy. I picked it up. I started reading it and I thought, right, here we go again, in a positive sense, in that Dorothy's caught me from the off and I know that she's now going to take me back somewhere because we've got to put all the pieces of this story together. Yeah. So let's talk about Cleo. Cleo is a very successful writer. A lot of her writings are now being made into TV adaptations, and I immediately thought about you with Ice Cream Girls. But being happily married, she draws it all to an end.
Yeah, at the beginning of the book, she's in a divorce lawyer's office and she basically is getting information about getting divorced, but also in that office, and this isn't a spoiler, in that office you kind of discover that she might possibly have been married before and hasn't possibly got divorced.
So this is where we have to start unwrapping things. She's being done for murder.
Well, she's arrested at the beginning. At the very, very start of the book, she's arrested for murder. Yeah, no, she's arrested for murder, and she's like I said, at the beginning of the book, she's arrested for murder, but she is claiming that she's innocent. And as the book goes along, you kind of discover that she may actually be innocent and not actually have done it. But then, you know, you never know with one of my books.
Forgive me for looking down because there's notes I definitely want to touch on. The thing is, in being charged with attempted murder, the divorce and giving up the TV production company, it's not all connected to the murder. It's all connected to the fact that she may have another husband. So It's about shutting all of that down.
Yeah, there's a reason. As you go through the book, and it starts off quite early. You realize that she doesn't want to get divorced from her current husband, from Wallace. Yeah. And when you see them together, you can see that they both still really love each other. And you're kind of like, why is she doing this? And then also her TV show that she's adapted her novels, called The Bacon Detective. Yes. And again, you can see she doesn't really want to end it because the show is really successful. People love it. She loves writing it. But again, she's ended it with no possibility of it coming back. And no one really kind of understands why she's dismantling her life in such a comprehensive way. And she's adamant to everybody that this is what she wants and this is what she's going to do. But you're never quite sure why, but you kind of realize that there's things from her past that are forcing her almost down this route.
One of the things that I did find with Chloe as I got more and more into her is there were
Cleo.
times when Cleo, sorry, she'd be on this, you know, she'd be on a high. She'd be all fun to be around. She'd be just, you know, the life and soul. But then she could go to some fairly dark places.
Yeah.
And I thought, look, is she either depressed? Is she bipolar? Or is it the burden of these secrets that she's carrying?
Yeah, it is partly that. It is I think most of it is the burden of what she's carrying. Somebody who's read the book described it as when you meet her, she's in this divorce lawyer's office. But when you go back to see her past and how she was as an older teenager and just started university, and she's quite naive and she's quite lovely and she loves everybody and she's great to everybody. And there's a real contrast to how she is now. And you kind of get the impression it's the things that have happened to her during her life, the journey she's been on, and that have turned her into this person who is kind of closed off and quiet and could be quite cold, even though you can see that she, like with Wallace, she's very cold to him, even though you can see that they both love each other.
And there's a warmth, and I don't like this word because I keep using it in Love Island, there's such a deep connection. You would wonder why she would want to give that up.
Yeah.
Let's go back a bit, because her student days feature very, very heavily in this. And I want to talk about the character Heath, who comes up in her student days. Unless I'm reading him incorrectly, I think Heath was very confident, didn't really care what her feelings were. He just thought he was the catch and she was going to like him and he was going to get her anyway.
Kind of, but also Heath was Heath's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. When he meets her, he is very honest with her. That's the thing about Heath, and that's the thing that you might kind of mistake for confidence. He is just very honest and he's very open, and he kind of says to her, "Look, I really like you," and he's also honest in that, saying, "I know you have no interest in me whatsoever, but I can't stop myself from feeling like this about her, about you." And so it's not so much confidence; it's like almost like he's helpless. He feels helpless because he doesn't want to. I mean, it's not too much of a spoiler to say that more than once during the book, he says, "I don't want to love you," but he can't help himself. So it's not so much confidence, but you know, they're friends. They become friends and they have a nice friendship, which probably should have stayed that way.
Does that, oh God, okay. Does the level of that friendship then not shape a lot of her personality? Because does she not, even in the marriage with Wallace, bounce back to Heath days?
Yeah, she does. I mean, she can't ever forget the Heath days, and because he basically has shaped pretty much more than half her life, but also not in a negative way, not all in a negative way. You know, he is somebody who's very important to her, like her friend Trina. Her and Trina are like, you know, besties, and Heath becomes a part of that. So if she hadn't got together with him, I think like I say, if they just stayed friends, things would have been fine, and I wouldn't have a novel to write. But so they kind of needed to get together for my novel to exist.
I also got the impression that whilst Trina was a good friend, this was just an impression I got. She wasn't to be trusted 100%. They were good friends, but I just didn't feel that she was to be trusted 100%.
Okay, but is that because you read my books and you're suspicious of everybody nowadays? Because
because when I think about when I first got into your writing, and many people have said this to me, and I can remember when, you know, I was in a book club and we were all saying, right, we've got to read Dorothy Koomson's books. And that was just when I'd tapped into one of your books. They were very much on a love story relationship basis. And even though your books are still very much on love stories, relationships and marriage, there's always some kind of twist or turn. There's some coercion. There's a bit of manipulation. there's always an event that ends up that your character or protagonist wants to brush under the carpet. So I do read your books with a lot of suspicion.
But you should always just trust everybody until you're shown otherwise. I think that's what it is. I think that's the problem nowadays with my books, because I've written so many of them. There's like 18 of them now. I think everyone's kind of suspicious of people. No one trusts anyone because they know that anybody, and this is the thing with people in life as well, anybody is capable of doing anything if they've given enough motivation, or if there's a big enough thing, they're capable of anything. And that's kind of what I kind of weave into my books. And I think that's what a lot of people kind of now, they pick up one of my books and they're suspicious of anybody. They can't relax because they're like, is this person going to stab me in the back, or is this person going to do that?
I've put here, Dorothy, and I'm going to read it. I've always loved that you use a non-verbal language with some of your characters in your books. Languages of manipulation, languages of love, but also languages of coercion. And you have to read the book to actually work out who each character is inside.
Yeah,
you're waiting for them to unfold. You're waiting for the layers to come off before you really get to that person inside.
And that's part of being that's part of the fun of writing, but also of just being around people, isn't it? Because that's what people are like. You don't actually ever get to know people straight away. They've got the face that they present to you, and then they've got the other things that they're hiding. And then there's the third thing, the thing that makes a book worth writing is that, and it's like people in real life, the things that are worth getting to know people about are the things you never find out straight away. So that's what I love doing in the book, sort of like putting all these different layers and these different unravelings of getting to know people.
One of the things that I do love whenever I do talk to you is to ask you about your research. The characters in the book, the storylines, unless you are cuckoo crazy, you must research. You must research some of the stories behind these characters. I mean, I can only assume that at some point you've delved into a story of somebody who was married to two people at one time, but didn't want to let the secret out. Somebody who was living a double life. I can only assume that these are things that you have to deeply research because, as we said, people have secrets. Your books are about real people. You don't want somebody to pick up your book and they've got a similar character and they go, no, that's not how it works.
No. See, I don't have another husband. I have to point that out, which is something I have to keep pointing out because I just think I have to put a disclaimer in. I don't have another.
Sure, you haven't, but
but I've written like it. I could have one. Yeah. Yeah, it's part of the process of being a writer, especially writing the sort of stories that I write. I enjoy researching and reading people's stories and finding out people's stories. There's actually quite a few people who have been married before that you wouldn't realize, that people I know personally who, after a while of knowing them, they suddenly go, oh yeah, well, I was married with my first husband. I'd be like, your first husband? Yeah. Oh yeah, I was married. And and I kind of just trusting that they got divorced with his first husband that I knew nothing about, and that's happened quite a lot. And some people who haven't actually got married, but they've been in long-term relationships with people who, I mean, it didn't work out, obviously, but there's this whole other side to them that I didn't realize, I didn't know until they sort of like confess this. So yeah, it's kind of talking to people and finding out why people keep secrets. I mean, the whole bigamy thing with Cleo came up because I was trying to work out why she wouldn't try and clear her name, because somebody is trying to frame her for murder. And why wouldn't she go to the police and clear her name? And I thought, Cleo's not somebody who would do stuff because for herself. She's not selfish. She's not evil. She's not trying to get money or power. But I needed a crime that she's committed that would stop her from clearing her name. That was more about other people being hurt, and if it came out, rather than her being hurt. And this was like a great one, because it's a sort of thing, because she loves Wallace, and the fact that if he found out that she'd been married before, I mean, he'd be fine with her dating other people, even living with them, but the fact that she's been married before and didn't mention it and didn't get divorced, I thought, you know what, if that came out, the ricochet and the cracks that it would create, not just in their marriage, in their relationship, but in everybody around them,
their lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Does the fact that she didn't tell Wallace that she was married before, don't you think straight away there's a bit of an alarm bell ringing?
I think so, but you do find out later on why she didn't tell him, and the reasons why she didn't tell him, and I think they're good enough reasons. You know, you may start the book thinking, "Gosh, Cleo, you're a bit of a one. You've duped this poor guy who is very nice and who loves her." And as you see, I mean, again, quite near the beginning of the book, you see him defending her, even though she's broken his heart. But you find out why she's doing the things she does, you know, and they have very good reasons, I think. I mean,
yes, they are. One of the things I was going to say was, why murder on this occasion? Why not theft? Why not a child that was adopted? Why not a bank balance that she didn't want to disclose? Why murder?
Well, it's got to be something really, the stakes have got to be really high. I mean, theft and stuff, you kind of, unless you're stealing from orphans and stuff, it's not high stakes, is it? It's not as, I suppose, final and as devastating as murder, I think. I mean, yes, when people have all their money robbed and they have nothing left, that is devastating. But again, I wanted Cleo for there to be a stark contrast between who she is, what she's accused of, and what she's actually been involved in the past. And she has been involved in, possibly been involved in the murder in the past, that maybe she's getting her comeuppance for now, for something that happened in the past. So it had to be something sort of like really long lasting. I mean, I didn't actually consider theft. I probably should have. I just went straight for murder.
Straight for the kill, absolutely. One of the times I can remember reading, and there were some fairly jaw-dropping statements for me, was through her work. There was quite a lot of sexism and quite a lot of racism. And I read it, and initially I was like, but then I thought, you know, we're in a time now where we can talk openly about these things. We're not ringing up friends on the phone and crying, do you know what happened to me at work today? We are very, very open about these things.
Well, we are still crying to our friends because, you know, we kind of, you know, 2020, the Black Square Summer, as people call it, you know, when everyone was claiming they're going to do better, that felt like a watershed moment, and it did, but not in the way that people kind of were thinking it was. It wasn't that everyone's going to change. People, you know, they made inroads to changing, but as time's gone on, it became too hard, and that's the problem. When something becomes too hard or too difficult, people kind of just revert to type, or they make the things they were trying to change for the problem rather than them. And we've seen that. But I think what changed in 2020, which I think a lot of people weren't expecting, was that we changed how we responded to it and how we decided to go forwards with it, because we started making our own things. We'd always been doing that, but we were kind of like open about it. Now it's like, you know what?
We took it to another level.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to do it ourselves, and we're going to do it openly ourselves. We're not going to sort of hide away. And also, like I say, we're still calling our friends up and crying because we need that emotional support, especially because out there's lots of people who spend a lot of time trying to tell us that we're wrong, that we're not, that what we know to be the case isn't the case, and how people treat us it's just how they treat everybody, not how they treat us as Black people or as people of color, or as women in these sort of things. So yeah, I kind of wrote about it because there's, you know, a lot of the stuff in the book. I kind of indulged myself a bit with this one because a lot of the stuff has been said to me and has happened to me, and I, you know, and I've just put it there on a page. Like I say, I've indulged myself and allowed people to see behind the curtain, as it were, of the things that have been said to me. And I'm saying this as somebody who's really successful.
Yes.
You know, I know there are so many people out there who don't have even half of my success. And obviously I want more success, but they don't have half. They experience this on a different level to the one that I have. And the level I experience it on is bad enough. So I'm always aware of the people coming up behind me, or the people who are there, who've been doing the same thing as me all the time, but don't have the opportunities, are constantly told the things that Cleo's told in the book. They're constantly told the things that I was told.
Was that then slightly autobiographical, or was it just a case of pouring out some of your personal experiences into Cleo?
It's slightly autobiographical in those bits. It's quite funny. Someone said to me, they'll ask me questions about Cleo, and the other bit went, so pretty much, why is Cleo Dorothy Koomson? I was like, I don't have another husband. She's not. I don't have another husband.
But Dorothy, I just love that your readership is very, very broad. Your readership, it is Black, it is white, it is worldwide. And I just felt it was really good and positive that you put in the racism and the sexism, because we have to be in a place where we're no longer mute. We have to be in that place where we can openly say, listen, I am just as good as you. I can do my job just as well as you. Please don't downgrade me because I'm not the same skin color. And I loved that you included, I don't like some of the statements that were included, but I like that you included that aspect of the book. And it's interesting because I don't think your diehard fans, I don't think that they'll be put off by that. If anything, I think they'll be more open towards you because you've opened up about it. Do you understand?
I think, I mean, in all my books, if you go through all my books, there's always an element of it, and it's because that's the reality of our lives. It's not all of our lives, and I do not allow myself to be defined by it, but it touches into my life. It occurs, you know, in I Know What You've Done, In All My Lives Are True, Bright and Mermaid, Tell Me Your Secret, That Day You Left, Rose Petal. There's loads of it. It's always there. It kind of, it just, but I don't make it a big deal. As it were, because you know what, it's not a big deal for me in every day of my life. I'm aware of it and it comes up. I mean, just like yesterday, I went to a hospital appointment and one of the people there was so awful to me. And I was like, so if I tried to explain this to somebody, they would say that I was being paranoid.
Yeah.
But the person who came next, followed me on the list, she was so over the top nice to her. And I was sat there listening to her going, yeah. But you know what? She doesn't define my life. She's
absolutely,
you know, good luck to her. But it's, sorry, I'm sorry.
No, you carry on. You carry on.
No, but it's there, isn't it? It's there in your life. And it kind of stops you short and you kind of go, oh, okay. So this is how we're going to play this. But it doesn't stop me from carrying on or going on to write more books or to live my life, basically. But I want to put it into my books because I want my characters to show that they are in the real world, that they are aware of what's going on around them.
This was for me slightly heavier than previous books. One of the things I loved, I always had a thing about Rose Petal Beach. I mean, I think you might have gathered that because the character on the cover was Black anyway. And I like, you know, she was there very sylph-like and she had on her white dress and the rose petals were falling. And because of your writing, because of who you are, I don't think that would have put off any of your white readers. It was just another Dorothy Koomson book. And I think that's where you've kind of clinched it, if that makes sense. You've got it in that okay, I'm a Black writer, I'm writing about these characters, they are characters, and it's only in certain chapters where certain language comes up that you start to think, oh, it is a Black woman, because it's the character of the person that we connect to and we engage with in the book.
Yeah, but that's how life is, isn't it? We
Yeah.
connect and we engage with people, and some people you connect with better, and sometimes that's because they're a Black person, or sometimes because they're from certain part of London, because they're sort of certain part of the world, or because they're a woman, or because they, you know, they like The Flash, or they like Knight Rider, or something. There is something that connects you to people,
Yeah.
and sometimes there are things that don't connect you to people, turn you off people. But the thing is, with my covers, for a long time they had nothing. They weren't. It wasn't until my third book that we had a Black hand on the cover. And I remember it was a Black woman holding my best friend's girl. The cover's changed, so I can't show it to you. But it was a Black woman's hand holding a white girl's hand, a young white girl's hand, and there was nothing revolutionary about that as far as I was concerned. It was who the people were in the story, and that was it. But it changed so many people's perceptions of books, because I mean, more than once people picked it up and read it, and then got to the bit, there's a scene where they're in the supermarket where she's trying to buy shampoo for the little girl, and little white girl, but she's never bought shampoo for a white person before. So she's like, I don't know what to do. So she asked the white woman, and this white woman creates this big scene and said, who's this child's mother, and why are you pretending that you're looking? And then a lot of people kind of got to that scene and suddenly went, oh, the main character's Black. And then they looked at the book cover and saw the Black hand.
So that's what I'm saying with your books. It's the character, it's the content of the character.
Yes, absolutely.
Engaging. But I'm just really pleased that you included some of the depth of the racism, some of the conversations here, because those conversations themselves in the book opened up more conversations. So as you say, it leaves us less mute, and it's just something that we, it might chip away, but like you say, 2020, we just sailed through, we just got through, and we're here, and we're not stopping. Now, the sexism. I can imagine that Cleo probably wanted to open her mouth in ways that she might have. I can imagine that Cleo wanted to cuss at times, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. With both things, the racism and the sexism. And she does at one point say something, but yeah, absolutely. And also, some of it comes from women as well, because let's not pretend that it doesn't come from women. Other women who don't like having their position challenged, who'd like to keep other women down, who, it comes from men and women, the sexism and the misogyny, and, the trying to stop people progressing or living their life or being all they can be, because a lot of it is jealousy and realizing that somebody could come and take their job, could do the job better, and wanting to suppress that person, but also while believing that they are just by existing, that they deserve to be in a superior area, on a superior level.
So in terms of going from deep love stories to now what I call suspense, and I'm going to call behavioral novels as well. That would make sense, because I actually love the fact that there are characters, and as you start to peel them back, you do think, have they been abused? Have they been coerced? Are they in an abusive marriage? What is going on? I love the fact that we're now opening up, you are now opening up and dissecting people, if that would be the right way of putting it. And then in the dissection, the secrets come up. And that's why she's the way she is. That's why he's the way he is. I love it. And sometimes, and I'm sure I've asked you this before, when you are writing your books, do you sit and talk to yourself in the character voices?
Oh, absolutely. The conversations are constantly in my head, they're always having conversations. And even when I finish the book, the characters carry on talking. I have conversations in my head playing with Tammy and Scott all the time about what happened to them from the Rose Petal Beach, what happened to them, and what, if they're still together or if they're not together or whatever. All the time, but you have to, because you work it out in your head, the conversations. And sometimes I read through the conversations out loud and to see if they sound right, because, you've got to be careful not to write stuff that is technically good on paper, but people would actually speak like that.
Yeah. Dorothy, are there any more TV adaptations on the way? Is this something you can talk about? Is this something you'd rather keep under wraps, or is it a straight yes or no?
Some people have optioned some of the books, as you see behind me. But you know what? It's funny actually, because when you first have your first option, you're like, wow, this is it. I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna make it. This is it. I've made it. And then you actually realize that being optioned means nothing in the grand scheme of things. There's so many stages from a producer saying, oh, I like that book, and putting an option on it and saying, I want to make it for TV or big screen, to actually being shown on the screen. So you're kind of always best off just to kind of take it with a pinch of salt, however much money you get for the option, take it, spend it, love it, enjoy it, and then wait to see if the next stage comes along.
This would be an amazing 4-part series on TV, don't you think?
Oh, I'd love it. But then, do you know what? It's funny actually, because I actually never write my books with a view to them being adapted. I write my books because, for me, books are the entity. That's what I'm doing. I'm writing the book.
Yeah.
And
I hear you and I get you. But you see, when I think My Other Husband, do you know who I'd like to see get their hands on this?
Oh, who?
Shonda Rhimes.
Oh,
Could you imagine what she would do with this?
Yeah. Well, maybe send it to her.
We should. No, it would be amazing. It's another Dorothy Koomson bestseller, My Other Husband. Let's hold Cleo in the palm of our hands, and let's hold her in our hearts. And Wallace. Oh, Wallace. Let's put Wallace aside for now. Bring in Heath. Oh boy. But, I almost see these characters, because I think it's the way you write them. And
thank you.
I love that, like I say, you start present day and then you go, right, we got to work out what's going on. We go back 25 years and we get closer and closer and closer. And as the layers are peeling off, you just get to understand the characters, and it's amazing. And Dorothy, another one. Well done. You've done it again.
Why, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. My Other Husband by Dorothy Koomson. Pick it up. All reputable bookstores. It's great. Thanks, Dorothy.
Thank you.